Alright, it's like 10:30 p.m. and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Anyway, remember the 3DS? It was a pretty cool handheld console. Handheld console. Whatever. Nintendo did the 3D. Was cool. Successor to the Nintendo DS. Pretty cool. Awesome games. Fun little gimmick with 3D that you can turn off after the first hour of using it because you had to get a headache. But another thing that the 3DS had was AR, augmented reality. When you got your 3DS, there were these cards to use for an AR game that you'd place on a table on the floor wherever, and you'd point the 3DS camera to it and it'd interact with like your screen. Not screen. It'd basically create a 3D object that interacts with your environment and you can manipulate it. And there was a couple of games with that. One of the games being Face Raider. Alright, now in Face Raiders, playing the game, you take a snap of someone's face, either it being your own or someone else, and the face gets projected on these little dudes flying around your screen, and you turn around in like actual 3D space and you fire at these enemies trying to get rid of them. And yeah, it was pretty cool, so I'm going to try and recreate that on my phone. Alright, so to create this game, I'm going to be using the Unity engine. Why Unity? I just know it. I have the most familiarity with it, and I know it has AR abilities, and I know how to work with them, and so I'm gonna go on and work in Unity. Now, as of recording this, Unity management has been a real pain that I know plenty of other devs in the community are not happy, and I'm also not happy, and I'll be real, part of me wants to try this out or use this opportunity to try out a new engine, but I really wanted to do this and I know Unity, so I'll stick with it. For now, in the future, I may try Unreal or Godot, or maybe something else, something interesting. But yeah, now let's get to it. So I create a Unity project, have it have an AR core sample, and bada bing and boom, I'm started. So I made a cube which I'm going to use as a default enemy for now. What I want the cube to do is just to circle around the player. Now while it's circling around the player, it's going to slowly get closer to the player until it touches the player, at which point you take damage. Alright, so here I go trying to create a script of having the cube rotate around the player. So the way this works is that first the enemy cube object is going to take in the location of where the player is, have that set, and then slowly just start circling around it, and we're gonna have it look at it and just orbit around it, kind of like how planets do with a sun. So once we have that and the object properly rotates around like the main player area, the next thing to do is to have it start decreasing its radius. So the way I would do that is I just create a function for adjusting the point and have it gradually decrease with time. And so one issue that comes with this at first is once it reaches 0, it starts just going in one direction because it doesn't really have much to orbit around. And so I just need to add an if statement that checks to see if the point it's at is 0, and then it'll destroy itself, and then later on once we get player health we'll know to take damage. Once I had that code, I realized I wanted to have different kinds of rotations. So I modified my code a little bit. That allows me to change the direction it rotates, the speed it rotates, and also I can change its rotation. So like instead of it going side to side, it can go over and under. Alright, so now that I got the enemy working the way I wanted to, the next part is to work on creating some enemy spawners. So I'll have these spawners be in front, behind, left, and right of the player, and they'll spawn enemies that spin around and get closer. And once I have these spawners, I'll make it so that they spawn the enemies at different rates so it isn't, too obvious of what to do. So now I have all the spawners in their own locations, so now I adjusted the enemy script so that they aren't doing the exact same things. They'll go at different speeds, they'll spawn at different times. So one time it can be waiting 5 seconds, another time you're waiting 1 second, one time you're waiting 3 seconds, and so forth. Wow, look at all of them go. and some are being faster than others, and they're being spawned at different intervals, which is exactly what I wanted. I got the enemy spawners working. Now I'm just going to add a limit so the screen isn't clogged with enemies. So, given that there's 4 spawners, I'll make it so each spawner can send a max of 10. That way there's a maximum of 40 enemies at a time. That just seems about right. Yeah. Alright, the enemy and enemy spawners seem to be working good, so I'm going to work on player stuff. So, health and actually attacking. So for now I'm going to work on the attack. Basically, you tap the screen, it fires in the direction that you're looking. Alright, enemy and spawners are working, and I got the player shooting working for the most part. And so I decided to test how this actually is working out. First thing I noticed, the clipping planes of the camera should be farther. I had it at 20. I think I'm going to boost that up to 30. That way it looks a lot nicer. Next thing I noticed is that tapping the fire, you can rapid tap. So I will have to either find a way to work around that, make it so it can't be that quick, or give the enemies a ton of health. Okay, so now after adjusting the camera, I think I'm going to work on the enemies. I'm going to give each enemy around 20 health points, and the bullet needs to do 1 point of damage. That way, even with the rapid fire, it should be a good while before you can defeat an enemy. Alright, got that. So now I'm just working on both player and enemy health. Enemies I'm practically good with, so now I just need to make sure the player health is working right. While working on the player health, I also quickly worked on a game over screen that essentially when your health reaches 0, you get a game over. From this point, I can work on making a score, a little UI thing, and then after that we'll go into more polishing. Alright, I got a little health bar working, I made a little scoreboard, and so things are working good now. The only thing I'm working on now is that the enemies keep going in one direction despite me wanting them to go in various directions, so I'm working around to try and see what I could do to adjust this. I eventually ran into an issue that I'll let me coding explain. Live rage mode. Okay. Live coding because I'm a bit confused. So I created an array of vectors 3 of the different kind of directions. So it can go up, down, left, or right, whatever. And here it randomly picks from it and it's supposed to apply it to this rotate around function. And I added this debug just so I see that it does choose a random thing. So now I'm going to look at all the spawners. So there, we got the first cube, second, alright. But they're all going at the same rate. So after trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, it became so obvious and I want to punch myself. So the issue was I was overwriting its own vector, so that's why they kept moving as if they had no vector. So I just moved that line to the start rather than the update function, and then it works the way I want it to. Something so simple, but God, I overlooked it for too long. Alright, after trying out my game again, I'm really happy how it is. There are a few things to work out. Sometimes the bullets bounce at the enemies, which not supposed to happen, so need to account for that. I might have given the player too much health, or maybe not, considering it's kind of like an endless kind of wave thing. But after I adjust the things, I'm gonna work on making dumb art assets using Blender. So here is just some footage of me in Blender right now. I hadn't used it in a while, but it was, good to get back to it. So I get my reference biplane photo and just go ham on it. Kind of happy how it turned out. Just wanted a low poly, nothing too fancy. It's a nice low poly biplane, and of course I was working on a pilot, so I went with just a frog because why not? And I gave it classic aviator goggles and whatnot. So after that I worked on coloring, but then I realized the biplane still didn't quite look right, so I adjusted the little wings, and now I'm working on animating the propeller to put it in Unity. And after I get that, it's all good. Alright, I put in the Unity, make sure to apply the animations, and then adjusted the enemy prefabs to include this new frog pilot model and bam, it's working pretty good. I'm quite happy. So now I just gotta work on the little menu that will load up when you open the game, but then all will be good. Yeah. Alright. Just made my little menu, so the last thing you do, which I'm gonna record myself doing, is sound effects. And here is the final footage of the game. I recorded this at night somewhere where no one could see me, and the quality of the cameras, cause Android, but yeah, I was happy with how it's turning out. The planes were acting weird in this footage, but I played it, outside of this, and it was working fine here. If I had to guess, I would assume that with the AR functionality, it was detecting the planes differently. But hey, it works the way I wanted it to, and I'm quite happy with it. Alright, and that was me making an AR game. And I gotta be honest, this was a lot of fun. Hopefully in the future I can do fun videos like this of just trying to make a game. I'm going to try learning Unreal and Godot just for my own experience and to more diversify. But yeah, hope you enjoy. Leave a like if you enjoyed me trying this out, and maybe consider subscribing so I know I can do more of this stuff. And yeah, have a good day.